The moment you showed your other half, their confidence didn't crack. It evaporated. That is the line they wish they could erase from reality. Not because it sounds dramatic, but because it describes the exact second their inner world collapsed. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't threaten anyone. You didn't attack. You simply revealed the part of you they were never supposed to see. And their jaw didn't drop out of surprise. It dropped out of fear. Let's be brutally clear from the first breath. They were never ready for the full version of you. They were only comfortable with the version they could predict, manage, underestimate, and quietly feel superior to. The calm one, the patient one, the one who explained instead of acted, the one who softened their power so others wouldn't feel small. That version kept the peace. This version ended the illusion. Picture this. A quiet lake, smooth surface, harmless, reflective. Everyone feels safe standing near it. Then one day the water pulls back and a massive structure rises from underneath. Same lake, same location, completely different reality. That's what happened when you revealed your other half. You didn't become something new. You exposed what was always there. And now they can't unsee it. Here's a fact that stings. People are not afraid of strong individuals. They are afraid of individuals who were playing small on purpose. Research shows that perceived unpredictability triggers more fear than obvious dominance. You weren't unpredictable because you were chaotic. You were unpredictable because you were controlled. You chose silence. You chose patience. And when you finally chose truth, it hit like a blade pulled slowly from a sleeve. That's why the room froze. That's why the laughter stopped. That's why they suddenly needed time to think. You didn't shock them by doing something loud. You shocked them by standing still and letting your full presence speak. Ancient predators don't chase. They let the world realize too late what's standing in front of them. Now pause. If your chest tightened just now, good. That means you recognize this moment. And chosen one, before we continue, thank you for being here. Don't forget to pay this message back by pressing like and subscribe so it reaches others who are standing on the edge of revealing themselves. This is not about hype. It's about responsibility. Thanks for being part of this mission. You are part of a force that refuses to stay hidden. Now let's go back, because this didn't start when you revealed your other half. It started long before that. They were comfortable because you made them comfortable. You translated yourself. You slowed down. You explained things twice. You dimmed your instincts. You let them believe they were ahead of you. That wasn't weakness. That was restraint. And restraint is invisible to people who only understand aggression. Then came the moment. Maybe it was a sentence you finally said out loud. Maybe it was a decision you made without consulting anyone. Maybe it was the calm way you walked away without begging, defending, or over-explaining. Whatever it was, it revealed something sharp, deliberate, and unbothered. That's when their inner alarms went off. You saw it in their eyes. The microsecond delay, the forced smile, the sudden respect mixed with panic. That was the realization. This person is not who we thought. And once that thought enters the mind, it doesn't leave. It multiplies. Here's another uncomfortable truth. The universe has a way of hiding power in plain sight until the timing is perfect. Ancient stories weren't obsessed with monsters for fun. They were obsessed with transformation. The scariest figures were never loud. They were patient. They waited until the reveal meant something. You didn't reveal your other half too early, and you didn't do it too late. You did it exactly when it would cause maximum impact. And that impact is still echoing. They are replaying the moment in their heads, not dramatically, quietly, late at night, while pretending everything is normal. Their ego is scrambling to rebuild a story where they are still in control. But it doesn't work anymore. Because control relies on predictability, and you just shattered that. Understand this clearly. When someone's jaw hits the floor, it's not because they saw something impressive. It's because they realized they were standing on the wrong side of the power dynamic. You didn't need to dominate them. You outgrew the game entirely. This is not about revenge. This is not about proving anything. This is about alignment. You stopped betraying your deeper instincts to maintain peace with people who benefited from your silence. That shift is irreversible. Once someone reveals their other half, the universe does not let them shrink back into the old shell. And that's why they are unsettled. They know something has changed. They don't know how to respond to you now. They don't know which version of you will show up. Calm doesn't comfort them anymore. Silence doesn't reassure them anymore, because now they know what lives underneath both. Chosen One, this message is not here to inflate you, it's here to remind you. The jaw-dropping moment wasn't an accident. It was the consequence of years of control, observation, and restraint finally converging. You didn't explode, you revealed. And from this point forward, the world will treat you differently, not because you demand it, but because once power is seen, it is felt everywhere you go. And now, Chosen One, before we cut any deeper, pause right here. Not because things are slowing down, but because this is the point where people either lean in or quietly disappear. If you're still here, it means something in you recognized what was said. The moment you revealed your other half wasn't random, and what follows is not for casual listeners. This is for the ones who felt the shift in the room, saw the reactions change, and realized, yeah, they saw it too. So if you're ready to stay with this all the way through, leave a comment with 777. Not for superstition, not for trends, but as a signal. A signal that you're aware, present, and willing to walk through this without flinching. And if this message is hitting harder than expected, showing support through a like, subscribe, or even a super thanks helps push this truth further. Every bit of support keeps messages like this alive and reaching the ones who need to hear them at the exact right moment. Now take a breath. What comes next breaks this down step by step. How the reveal happened, why it rattled them so deeply, and what it unlocks for you moving forward. If you're truly a chosen one, you'll feel the pull to stay until the very end. Let's begin. Number 1. The day your truth backhanded their fantasy and left them speechless. You didn't destroy them by attacking. You destroyed them by existing without permission. That was the moment everything snapped. Not slowly, not politely, instantly. They had been living inside a comfortable lie where you were small, manageable, predictable, a harmless character they could overlook, interrupt, or mentally place beneath themselves. And then your truth showed up. No warning, no apology, no explanation, just presence, raw, grounded, awake, and it slapped their delusions so hard their inner world stalled like a broken machine. Understand this clearly, because this is where most people misunderstand what happened. The truth that hit them was not dramatic. You didn't give a speech. You didn't flex. You didn't announce anything. The truth arrived quietly, like a blade sliding out of a sleeve. Calm voice, steady eyes, no fear behind them. That's what broke the illusion. Because power that doesn't need noise terrifies people who rely on noise to feel important. They kept calling you harmless because that story benefited them. It allowed them to relax. It allowed them to feel superior without earning it. It allowed them to underestimate you without consequences. But the moment your truth surfaced, their ego didn't just feel challenged, it felt exposed. And ego hates exposure more than defeat. Defeat can be blamed on bad luck. Exposure leaves no excuses. Let's say the quiet part out loud. The version of you they met was not new. It was built slowly, painfully, over time, forged through disappointment that forced you to think deeper, through betrayal that taught you restraint instead of reaction, through being overlooked so often that you learned how to observe instead of explain. While they were busy performing confidence, you were building substance. While they were talking, you were studying. While they were assuming, you were preparing. That's why their reaction wasn't loud anger. It was internal collapse. They saw the intensity you hid because people kept telling you to tone it down. They saw the focus that doesn't come from anxiety, but from calculation. They saw the stillness that only comes from someone who knows exactly what they are capable of and doesn't need to prove it. And that realization hit them all at once, not in words, in their nervous system. Here's something most people never hear. Humans fear what they can't place on a hierarchy. If they can't tell whether they're above you, below you, or beside you, their mind starts panicking. You stopped fitting neatly into their mental boxes. You weren't loud enough to dismiss. You weren't passive enough to dominate. You weren't chaotic enough to predict. That ambiguity is deadly to insecure people. At this point, questions started racing through their heads, whether they admitted it or not. When did this happen? How long has this been there? Did we miss something? Have they always been like this? Those questions are dangerous because once someone starts questioning their perception of you, they start questioning their perception of themselves. And here's the part that really shook them. You weren't afraid anymore. Not of being misunderstood, not of being disliked, not of outgrowing them so fast it leaves emotional whiplash behind. Fear used to make you explain yourself. Fear used to make you soften your words. Fear used to make you shrink your instincts to keep the peace. That fear is gone now, and without fear, your presence carries weight whether you speak or not. Think about it like this. A storm doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't negotiate with the sky. It just arrives, and everything else has to respond. That's what your truth felt like to them. Not chaos, not drama, pressure, unavoidable pressure. They realized something else in that moment too. You were never desperate for their approval. You were tolerating them, and tolerance looks a lot like submission to people who don't understand restraint. The second tolerance ends, the power balance flips. That flip is what made their jaw hit the floor. You might be wondering, why did this bother them so much? Simple. Because they benefited from the old version of you. Your patience made them comfortable. Your silence made them bold. Your kindness gave them room to feel important without being competent. When you stepped out of being digestible and into being undeniable, you removed the cushion they were leaning on. And let's be honest, some of them built their identity around being ahead of you, smarter than you, more capable than you, more dominant than you. When your truth surfaced, it didn't just challenge that identity, it erased it. Overnight. No debate. No appeal. Here's a fact that should settle something in your mind. The human brain reacts more strongly to unexpected authority than expected dominance. That's why people panic when someone they underestimated reveals clarity, composure, and control. You didn't overpower them, you disoriented them, and disorientation is far more unsettling. You didn't reveal your truth to punish anyone, you revealed it because pretending was costing you too much energy, time, self-respect. You got bored of playing smaller than your awareness, and boredom, not anger, is what ends eras. Anger still cares. Boredom moves on. This is why they keep replaying that moment. The tone of your voice, the way you didn't rush, the way you didn't defend yourself, the way you didn't need their reaction. They felt it instantly. This person has crossed a line we can't follow. Not because you're better, but because you're done performing. Chosen one, let this land fully. That slap wasn't loud, but it echoed. It echoed through their assumptions, their confidence, their memory of you. They now have to reconcile two versions of reality. The version where they felt safe underestimating you, and the version where they realize they were never seeing the whole picture. And there is no going back to the old one. You didn't break them. You woke them up to the truth they were avoiding. And people hate awakening when it doesn't happen on their terms. That's why their reaction wasn't celebration. It was shock. Because your truth arrived fully formed and it didn't ask for validation. This is the foundation. Everything that follows builds on this moment. The slap wasn't the end, it was the beginning. Similarly, rewrite this next section in 1,200 words with same tone and style we have in previous section of our script. Add 3 to 4 quotes and 3 to 4 metaphorical examples, like, imagine this. Answer questions that might come in their mind. Number 2, you were never powerless. You were holding the leash the whole time. You didn't lose control, you delayed it. That's the truth they weren't built to handle. They mistook your quiet for weakness because weak people assume silence means absence. They never considered the more dangerous option, that you were watching, measuring, calculating how far things could go before consequences became unavoidable. You weren't surviving them, you were managing them. Kindness was never softness. Kindness was restraint, and restraint is terrifying once it's removed. Imagine someone playing with a thermostat in a room, laughing, getting comfortable, turning the heat up and down without thinking. They assume the room just reacts on its own. Then one day, they realize someone else has had their hand on the dial the entire time. That's what just hit them. You weren't reacting to their behavior, you were regulating it. Every time you let them win, you were protecting them from themselves. Every time you walked away instead of responding, you spared them consequences they weren't ready to face. Every time you stayed calm while they tested you, you were giving mercy they never earned. They called it passivity because the alternative was admitting you had control and chose not to use it. Here's what shook them. Control doesn't always look like dominance. Sometimes it looks like patience, so deep it feels invisible. You allowed chaos to exist within limits. You let disrespect breathe just long enough to expose itself. And the moment you stopped buffering the impact, everything changed. You didn't raise your voice, you removed the ceiling. That's why the shift felt violent, even though you barely moved. They suddenly realized every interaction, every tone, every boundary had been set by you. You controlled the pace. You controlled the distance. You controlled how far things could go before snapping back into place. When you stepped back emotionally, the entire structure lost balance. You might be asking yourself, did I let this go on too long? No, you let it go on long enough for patterns to reveal themselves, long enough for excuses to expire, long enough for them to hang themselves with their own behavior. That's not weakness, that's precision. Imagine letting someone shadowbox, throwing punches at air, thinking they're strong. Then you step aside and let them hit something solid. The shock isn't the impact. It's the realization that the resistance was always there and they just never met it. You didn't become dangerous. You stopped being gentle. And that's the part they can't rewrite. They now know the calm wasn't lack of power. It was discipline, and discipline always scares people who rely on impulse. You controlled the temperature of every interaction. When you finally let the room go cold, they felt it instantly. This wasn't revenge, this was gravity, and gravity doesn't negotiate. Number 3. The second you stopped pretending, their reality split in half. You didn't shatter their world by force. You stepped aside and let it fall. That was the moment. Not loud, not dramatic, no scene, no warning sirens, just a clean, irreversible crack running straight through the reality they built around you. The reveal didn't scream because it didn't need to. Screaming is for people who still need to be believed. You had already crossed that line. All you did was stop pretending, and their illusion collapsed under its own weight. They were standing on a version of you that no longer existed, a padded version, a softened version, one that absorbed disrespect, smoothed tension, and kept their ego safe from friction. You didn't realize how much support you were providing until you removed it. The moment you stopped cushioning their ego, they felt the drop. Not emotionally, structurally. Imagine leaning against a wall for years without knowing it's being held up by someone else. The day that person steps away, the wall doesn't wobble. It falls, fast, loud in the mind, even if the room stays silent. That's what this was. You didn't push, you didn't confront. You simply withdrew the energy that was holding their fantasy together. You didn't change the story, you removed yourself from it. That's why they looked confused instead of angry. Anger requires an enemy. Confusion appears when the script stops working. They were waiting for you to explain, defend, soften, or apologize. You did none of it. That absence did more damage than any argument ever could, because arguments keep people inside the same game. Silence with clarity ends it. Here's the question they're asking, but won't say out loud. How long have they been like this? And that question terrifies them because it forces another one right behind it. Were we wrong the whole time? When people realize their perception was flawed, their confidence fractures, not in public, internally, where it hurts. You didn't expose them by pointing, you exposed them by standing still. Your truth didn't attack them, it reflected them. Their insecurity, their need for control, their reliance on your compliance. Without you shrinking, those traits had nowhere to hide. You became a mirror they couldn't avoid. And mirrors don't insult, they reveal. Imagine a stage where the lights suddenly flip on the audience instead of the performer. No accusation, no commentary, just visibility. That's what your presence did. They saw themselves clearly for the first time, and it wasn't flattering. If you're wondering whether this crack can be repaired, here's the answer. No. Once illusion breaks, it doesn't glue back together the same way. They can pretend, they can reframe, they can minimize, but they can't unsee what was revealed, and neither can you. This wasn't a confrontation, it was a collapse. And it only happened because you finally stopped holding everything up for them. Number 4, the snapshot that permanently ruined their comfort. Once the curtain lifts, the mind never forgets what stood behind it. That's the damage you did without lifting a finger. The image they saw of you is now burned into their memory, and no amount of denial, distraction, or pretending will scrub it out. People can rewrite stories, but they cannot erase moments that reorganize their understanding of reality, and that moment did exactly that. Quietly, cleanly, permanently. You didn't overwhelm them with everything you are. You showed them just enough to crack their confidence, just enough to destabilize the narrative they'd been living inside. You revealed a glimpse, not the whole map, and that's what makes it unbearable for them. If you had shown everything, they could label it, reduce it, explain it away, but you didn't. You left gaps, and the human mind fills gaps with fear. Imagine seeing the entrance to a tunnel stretch into darkness with no visible end. You don't need to walk it to feel uneasy. You just need to realize it goes farther than expected. That's what you did. You revealed depth without showing the bottom. Now they're stuck wondering how far it really goes and whether there's a limit at all. Here's what's haunting them most. They can't go back to seeing you as small. Once the brain updates its assessment of someone's capacity, it doesn't downgrade easily. They might try to talk themselves out of it. They might minimize it out loud. But internally, the file has been updated. You're no longer safe. You're no longer less. You're unknown territory. You didn't prove you were powerful. You proved they were blind. That's a different kind of humiliation. Being beaten hurts. Being wrong rewires the ego. They now have to question every moment they dismissed you, every time they spoke over you, every time they assumed you were behind them instead of ahead. That rewind is brutal because it forces accountability without giving them a target to attack. You may be wondering, why does this feel unfinished? Because it is. You didn't give closure, you gave awareness. Closure comforts people. Awareness unsettles them. They don't know where your edge is. They don't know how much you were holding back. And they definitely don't know what you're capable of now that you're no longer hiding. You didn't leave a scar. You left a question mark. And question marks live longer than wounds. This image will resurface when they least expect it. In quiet moments, in comparisons, in situations where confidence used to come easily. You don't need to remind them. Their own mind does that for you. That's the power of a reveal done right. Number 5. The reckoning didn't chase them. It stood there looking like you. You didn't punish them. You became the consequence. That's the part they still can't wrap their head around. You didn't do anything to them. No revenge, no attack, no grand speech. You simply existed without filters, without shrinking, without buffering reality for them anymore. And somehow, that was enough to dismantle everything they thought was solid. They were prepared for conflict. They were not prepared for presence. Your face, your calm, your silence, your certainty became the reminder they couldn't escape. Not because you were judging them, but because they started judging themselves in your reflection. That's how mirrors work. They don't accuse, they reveal. And once someone sees themselves clearly, there's no hiding from the discomfort. Imagine walking into a room where the lights are suddenly brighter than you remember. Nothing changed about the room, only the visibility. That's what your truth did. Every awkward pause felt heavier. Every casual glance felt loaded. Every silence felt like pressure. Not because you were applying it, but because you were no longer absorbing it for them. You weren't haunting them, you stopped shielding them. That distinction matters. For a long time, you softened reality. You laughed things off. You ignored what felt off. You let moments slide so others could stay comfortable. When you stopped doing that, reality rushed in. And reality has weight. They mistook your protection for normalcy. Once it disappeared, they felt exposed. Here's why this hits so deeply. Human beings can tolerate criticism. They can tolerate conflict. What they struggle with is unfiltered truth. When you stopped explaining yourself, stopped reacting, stopped adjusting your energy to manage their emotions, they were left alone with their own behavior. That's unbearable for people who survive by distraction. You might be asking yourself, why do they seem more shaken now than when things were loud? Because noise distracts, silence clarifies, and your silence isn't empty anymore. It's grounded, intentional, final. You didn't become cold, you became exact. Now every interaction feels different to them, not hostile, just honest. And honesty is ruthless to people who relied on you being accommodating. You didn't corner them. You didn't confront them. You let them confront themselves. That's the consequence they never saw coming. Not punishment, not loss, awareness. And awareness, once triggered, doesn't turn off. They're not reacting to you. They're reacting to what your presence awakened in them. And that awakening didn't come wearing anger or chaos. It came wearing your face. Number 6, you didn't step above them. You made them realize where they stand. You didn't humble them with force. You humbled them with clarity. That's the truth that rearranged the hierarchy in their mind. You didn't just reveal your other half. You revealed them, their shallow perception, their fragile confidence, their habit of judging depth based on surface noise. And once that happened, there was no scrambling back to the old positions. The floor plan changed. They thought they knew the terrain because they only mapped what was visible, what they could label, what felt familiar. You exposed something they never accounted for, an underground world of awareness, discipline, restraint, and precision they didn't even know existed. And that realization put them exactly where they belong. Not beneath you, not above you, but finally honest about the gap. Imagine walking confidently across land you think is solid, only to discover there's an entire structure beneath your feet you never noticed. You don't keep stomping after that. You slow down. You step carefully. You start measuring where you place your weight. That's what you've done to them. Their casual confidence evaporated. You didn't intimidate them. You corrected them. Correction is more painful than dominance. Dominance can be challenged. Correction forces acceptance. They now know they misjudged you, and misjudgment leaves a mark on the ego that praise never could. Every time they speak to you now, they hear their own assumptions echoing back. Every word is weighed, every move reconsidered. You might be wondering why they suddenly seem cautious, even respectful. It's not admiration, it's recalibration. They're rewriting their internal file on you in real time, trying to adjust without exposing how wrong they were. That's why the energy feels different, not hostile, just careful. You didn't grow louder, you grew undeniable. That's the shift they can't ignore. You're no longer someone they casually size up. You're someone they have to factor in. And people hate that transition because it means admitting they weren't as perceptive as they thought. Here's the quiet win. You didn't demand respect. You didn't ask for recognition. You didn't explain the depth they missed. You let them discover it themselves. And self-discovery cuts deeper than correction from the outside. They're in their place now, not because you pushed them there, but because the truth rearranged the room. And once truth does that, no one gets to pretend the old seating order still applies. You didn't climb over them. You exposed the ground they were standing on. Number 7, the moment you stood up and the shackles fell apart. Freedom doesn't ask politely, it snaps. That was the day it happened, not when they reacted, not when they stumbled, but the second you stopped kneeling for people who never earned your lowered head. Liberation was not gentle, and it was never meant to be. It didn't feel soft or comforting. It felt final, like something old cracking off your spine and hitting the floor for good. You didn't lose anything that day. That's the lie people try to sell you when they're scared of your independence. You didn't lose relationships, safety, or belonging. You shed a costume, one you wore to survive rooms that didn't deserve your real presence. One you wore to avoid conflict with people who only felt tall when you stayed small. You didn't walk away empty-handed. You walked away unchained. The moment your other half stepped forward, something inside you locked into place. Not ego, not anger, alignment. the kind that feels quiet but unshakable. You stopped negotiating with your instincts. You stopped explaining what should have been obvious. You stopped apologizing for clarity. And in that instant, you felt it, the internal click, the sense of coming home to yourself. Imagine carrying a heavy bag for so long, you forget it's there. You adjust your posture, you compensate, you build pain into your daily movement and call it normal. Then one day, you drop the bag. The relief isn't dramatic. It's shocking. That's what this was. You didn't just feel lighter. You realized how much weight you had been carrying for other people. Here's the part that matters most. You didn't just reveal yourself to them. You revealed yourself to yourself. You saw how much power you'd been sitting on, how much intuition you'd been muting, how much strength you'd been rationing out of fear it would make others uncomfortable. Chains don't always look like cages. Sometimes they look like compromise. That's why breaking free felt so sudden. You weren't imprisoned, you were conditioned. And conditioning breaks the moment awareness shows up. Once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. You couldn't go back to shrinking without betraying yourself. If you're wondering whether this freedom will cost you people, here's the truth. It only costs you those who needed you restrained. And that's not loss, that's proof. You didn't break their expectations, you broke your chains. Number 8, they're not afraid of your actions, they're afraid you see everything. They don't tense up because of what you might do, they tense up because you already know. That's the fear trailing them now, quiet and constant, like a shadow they can't outrun. They don't fear your next move. They fear your awareness. They fear that look in your eyes that says you've already mapped the room, already clocked the dynamics, already understood who's pretending and who's panicking. And the worst part for them is this. Their body reacts before their mind can invent a lie. That's why the energy shifts when you enter. Conversations soften, jokes lose confidence, voices change pitch, eye contact breaks for half a second too long. None of this is conscious. Instinct always speaks first. Logic comes later to clean up the mess. And instinct already knows it misjudged you. Imagine a guard dog that suddenly realizes the person walking past the gate isn't prey or threat, but something that doesn't need to rush, something that watches. The barking stops, the stance changes. That's not fear of attack, that's recognition. You don't scare them by being dangerous, you scare them by being precise. They feel exposed around you because you stopped over-explaining, you stopped reacting emotionally, you stopped filling silence to make others comfortable. Silence used to be a gap they could fill. Now it's a mirror they can't avoid. And mirrors trigger panic in people who rely on performance. You might wonder why they seem nervous even when you say nothing, because truth doesn't need language. Your calm tells them you're not seeking approval. Your posture tells them you're not unsure. Your stillness tells them you're not distracted. And that combination rattles people who survive by staying one step ahead of perception. The body confesses what the mouth denies. That's why their shoulders tighten. That's why they suddenly become careful with words. That's why they overthink simple interactions. They're not scared of confrontation. They're scared you've already reached conclusions they can't argue with. Here's the real shift. They no longer feel above you, but they don't feel equal either. They feel seen. And being seen without control is deeply unsettling. You're not chasing respect. You're not demanding space. You're simply occupying it fully. And now the fear follows them, not because you threaten their future, but because you've already exposed their past. That shadow doesn't leave. Because awareness, once recognized, can't be unseen. Number 9. The moment. They realized the board was never theirs. They didn't lose control that day. They discovered it was never in their hands. That's when the game flipped. Not with a fight, not with a declaration, with understanding, the kind that hits late and lingers longer than anger ever could. They finally saw the truth they'd been avoiding. You were never submitting. You were observing. You were never blending in. You were choosing when to stand out. And the second they understood that, the illusion of control collapsed completely. For a long time, your silence was convenient for them. They read it as agreement, as weakness, as compliance. It made them comfortable believing they were steering the interaction, setting the tone, holding leverage. But silence doesn't mean empty. Silence means space. And space is where strategy lives. Imagine someone bragging about winning a race without realizing the other runner never started sprinting. Then one day, the runner walks past them calmly while they're still celebrating. That's the embarrassment they're processing now. Not loss, miscalculation. Power doesn't announce itself, it reveals itself. Your calm used to make you look small to people who only understand noise. Now, it unsettles them. Because calm paired with clarity signals something final. You're not reacting, you're deciding. And decision-making is where power actually sits. They feel it every time you don't rush to speak. Every time you don't explain yourself. Every time you don't adjust your tone to manage their comfort. The rules they thought governed you no longer apply. And that's destabilizing, because it forces them to confront a painful realization. They were responding to a version of you that no longer exists. You might be wondering why this feels different from every other shift you've had. Because this time, you didn't take power from them. You reclaimed it from yourself. You stopped outsourcing authority over your time, energy, and presence. You stopped negotiating your worth through behavior. And once that happens, control doesn't need to be seized. It returns naturally. You didn't flip the game by moving faster. You flipped it by standing still. Now, your presence doesn't blend into the background. It anchors the room. People notice when you enter. Not because you demand attention, but because the dynamic adjusts around you. That's the unmistakable signal of reclaimed power. They didn't lose the game. They finally realized they were never the ones playing it. Number 10. The silence that exposed everything they were hiding. Silence doesn't scare the innocent. It terrifies the exposed. That's the quiet you carry now. Not the old silence that came from patience or politeness. Not the silence that tried to keep the peace. This one is different. This one has weight. And they feel it the moment you stop filling the air for them. Your quiet is no longer compliance. It's command. You don't argue anymore because you don't need to. You don't explain because nothing is unclear. You don't rush to soften moments that make others uncomfortable. And that absence of effort is what makes their inner world start shaking. Because when you stop talking, they're left alone with themselves. Imagine a courtroom where the defense suddenly goes silent. No excuses, no distractions, no emotional noise, just facts sitting in the open. The room doesn't get louder, it gets heavier. That's what your presence does now. You don't accuse, you don't confront. You let the truth breathe, and breathing space is unbearable for people who rely on chaos to hide. Your stillness isn't empty, it's loaded. They can feel it, in the way pauses stretch too long, in the way they suddenly feel the urge to over-explain, in the way they talk faster around you, laugh a little too hard, or avoid eye contact altogether. Your silence pulls confessions out of people without you asking a single question. You might wonder why this quiet has more impact than anything you ever said. Because words can be debated, silence cannot. Silence doesn't give them a handle to grab. It doesn't offer a weak point to twist. It doesn't lower itself to their level. It simply stands there, unmoved. Before, your softness acted like insulation. It absorbed tension. It softened edges. It gave people room to pretend they didn't know better. Now that softness is gone, and without it, truth becomes sharp. Every behavior reflects louder. Every insecurity echoes longer. You're not withholding. You're finished negotiating. That's what they feel. Finality, not anger, not punishment, certainty. And certainty rattles people who survive by testing boundaries. They don't know where they stand with you anymore because you stopped adjusting yourself to make it obvious. This quiet doesn't need volume. It doesn't need explanation. It speaks through posture, timing, and restraint. And the more they try to ignore it, the louder it gets inside their own mind. You didn't become cold. You became unmistakable, and that's why their souls tremble when the room goes quiet. Number 11. The timeline. They assumed was theirs, just disappeared. They didn't lose you. They lost control of the ending. That's the quiet disaster they're still processing. They didn't lose a person. They lost a future they had already scripted in their head. A version of tomorrow where you stayed predictable, where you stayed adjustable, where your silence could be used, redirected, and shaped to support plans that were never truly yours. The second you woke up, that entire timeline collapsed. They were building on an assumption that you would always be there in the same role, the calm one, the reasonable one, the one who would keep absorbing pressure so things could move forward without friction. Their plans relied on your compliance, even if they never said it out loud. And when your silence stopped meaning agreement, every structure they built on top of it cracked. Imagine designing a bridge while assuming the ground beneath it will never move. Then, one day, the ground shifts. The bridge doesn't fail because of poor design. It fails because the foundation was never stable. That's what happened to their future. It wasn't ruined, it was exposed. You didn't derail their plans, you removed yourself from them. That's why they feel disoriented instead of angry. Anger needs someone to blame. Disorientation comes when the map stops matching reality. The leverage they thought they had evaporated the moment you stopped playing the role they assigned you. Not dramatically, logically. You might be asking yourself, why do they act like something was taken from them? Because in their mind, it was. They confused access with ownership. They confused familiarity with entitlement. They confused your patience with permanence, and now they're forced to face a future where none of those assumptions apply. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Their future didn't collapse because you changed. It collapsed because it depended on you staying the same. That's not partnership, that's projection. And projections don't survive contact with awareness. Awakening doesn't destroy futures, it reveals which ones were imaginary. Your awakening clarified things. It separated what was real from what was convenient. It showed which plans were mutual and which were built quietly around your silence. That clarity hurts, but it's clean. No drama, no chaos, just alignment. They didn't lose potential. They lost the illusion that your life was something they could schedule. And once that illusion breaks, there's no rebuilding it. Number 12. The moment the room started bending around you. You didn't demand attention. Reality adjusted itself. That's the day the shift became undeniable. You stopped orbiting people. You stopped revolving around moods, expectations, and invisible rules that were never meant to protect you. And the second you stood still in yourself, everything else started wobbling. Not because you pushed, because gravity doesn't push. It pulls. They felt it immediately. Conversations stalled. Energy changed direction. People who used to feel tall around you suddenly felt off balance. When someone has been used to you compensating, adapting and smoothing the space, your stillness feels like an earthquake. You didn't grow heavier, you stopped floating. Imagine walking into a room where the floor subtly tilts toward one person. No announcement, no explanation, you just feel it. That's what you became. A center, a reference point. And people who don't know how to stand on their own start leaning, slipping, or backing away. You didn't become important, you became unavoidable. That's why everything else started looking crooked. You weren't judging, you weren't correcting, you were aligned. And alignment exposes misalignment without saying a word. People could feel it in their posture, in their tone, in the way they suddenly questioned themselves mid-sentence. Your presence recalibrated the room. You might be wondering why some people drifted away so quickly. Simple. Not everyone can survive near something that doesn't bend for them anymore. When you stop adapting to small spaces collapse. That's not cruelty, that's physics. Imagine a planet forming in open space. At first, nothing seems different. Then slowly, debris starts pulling in. Some objects fall into orbit. Others get flung away. None of it is personal. It's mass, it's force, it's inevitability. You didn't change the rules. You revealed who they were built for. Now people either align or disappear. Not dramatically, naturally. The ones who were only comfortable when you were smaller can't find footing anymore. The ones who respect strength without needing dominance adjust and stay. That sorting isn't something you're doing. It's something that's happening around you. You're no longer managing rooms. You're anchoring them. You're no longer adapting to energy. You're setting it. And the world responds the same way it always does to gravity. It rearranges itself. Quietly, relentlessly, permanently. And chosen one, if this message landed heavy, it's because it was meant to. You didn't imagine the shift. You didn't overreact. You stepped into who you really are, and the world adjusted accordingly. If this helped you see your power more clearly, press the like button now and lock it in. And if you're not part of this family yet, make sure to press subscribe. We build awareness here, not noise. Stay grounded, stay sharp, and remember, once you stand in your truth, nothing around you stays the same.